while the monetary and financial integrated system is breaking down and will break down more and more by its own internal contradiction and, of course, armament, is that this system, in order to reproduce the exclusive continuation of the domination of that collective imperialism of the triad, in order to reproduce itself, this system has to, and cannot do otherwise, ensure the exclusive access to the natural resources of the whole planet in order to reproduce its society as it is, with all the waste and the ecological consequences that we know, etc., etc. This comes as a result, necessary result, of the logic of the reproduction of that generalized monopoly capital, and not as a reason by itself, a force operating by itself. Now, so we have the target is that exclusive control. How to ensure that exclusive control of the access to the natural resources, therefore depriving, of course, eventually, or limiting eventually, and that is containment, the emerging countries, particularly China, for the access to those natural resources outside its boundaries, but which is a strategy of containment with a view to rolling back in the future, just similar to the strategy which was developed for 70 years vis-à-vis the Soviet Union of that time. But also depriving all the others, which count for zero, from the access to those natural resources. From the logic of this generalized monopoly capital, Africa is important because it has resources, but Africans are rather an obstacle than anything else. Now, that is their strategy. It is a strategy which implies the military control of the planet. And that was developed by what was formulated by Clinton, not by Bush, could not formulate anything, by Clinton before Bush in the project of the 21st American century. American century is not correct. It's the collective imperialism of the triad with not a hegemony, but with a leadership of the US for the 21st century. That needs the military control of the planet. And the military control of the planet means able to containment, and eventually later or earlier through a preemptive war, and that was written in the reports signed by Clinton, against China and perhaps also Russia. And India, if the Indians are naughty, but they are not naughty for the time being. I mean the state, the ruling class, etc. That is a strategy of war. And it is that strategy of war which is, in my opinion, the explanation of the choice by the collective imperialism of the triad and by its leader, the United States, the first strike on the Middle East countries, in order to not only to control directly oil, which is not unimportant, but also to be, Baghdad is at equal distance from London, Johannesburg, Beijing, and Singapore, to control our old world, as we say, and therefore prepare further steps. That implied the destruction of the societies of the region, the destruction of the societies of the region. That is the strategy. It is a strategy of war and destruction of countries. If I had time, I would say the model is Iraq, that is destroying a country by replacing a dictatorship, but one which was what it was, by 3 uglier dictatorships in the name of religion and ethnicity, and by systematic assassination of all the intelligentsia of the country, from engineers, scientists, including poets and so on, systematically. Well, you know what is being said about Katyn and the Russians and Soviets in Katyn. Well, 2 presidents of United States have assassinated much more Iraqis than were assassinated in Katyn, and nobody says anything about their crimes.